let's go ahead and get ourselves started. And maybe perhaps by the time roll call comes, she will have logged in. So that's good. Okay, this is the January 21st, 2021 meeting of the Oakridge City Council, held both via Zoom as well as in person at the WAC. And we officially call this meeting to order. Trudy, do you have your flag? Thank you. Good job. So please rise or straighten yourself up as is your custom. And Brian, will you start our Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Thank you. Trudy? Trudy, so in the future, if you're going to hold your flag up like that, it appears to us as being backward. So you'll have to flip it around, but that's okay. There you go, perfect. Thank you, Trudy. I appreciate that. Jackie, will you call the roll of counselors, please?
Mayor Holston,
Here.
Councillor Bjarnson,
Here.
Councillor Whitney,
Here.
Councillor Coker,
Here.
Councillor Hollett,
Here.
Councillor Kenyon,
Okay.
Councillor Spleedoff,
Here.
Thank you, Jackie.
I did see Councillor Kenyon check in.
Oh, okay, thank you. I see her. Okay.
Okay, good, good. All right, before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping here for council and for others that are listening. Others that are listening, please leave your computers or your phones on mute. Council, you can choose to leave it on mute or not. What I would ask though is that everybody use the raise hand function on the Zoom meetings. When you raise your hand, it brings you to the top of the list and I can see that your hand is raised and I have my list up. I can't always see you if you're waving at me because we now have more participants. Like today, we have 22. I can't see everybody's picture and some of you don't have your pictures up. So if you would right now, I'd like all the counselors to find your raised hand and raise your hand so that you know where it is and how to unraise it. So if you have any questions, unmute yourself. And okay, so Chris, thank you, Chrissy. Who else? There's Melissa, good.
Kathy, this is Councillor Kenyon. I'm on a new device and I can't find it. I looked under participants and under chat.
Oh, okay. So are you on a new computer or a whatever?
Old laptop to me, but it's
okay.
For Zoom.
And it doesn't have a raised hand.
I found it.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay, so Bobby, Michelle, Audie, Dawn, Melissa, awesome. And so you can also unraise your hand by once it's raised, it does it. And so the nice thing about that is that I don't have to scroll down the list. It just automatically puts you up at the top, so I know that you're there. So let's use that raise hand feature. Please don't unmute yourself and just start making your statements. Give me the opportunity to recognize you because others may be waiting too. Okay, all right, let's move on then. Ryan, do you have any additions, corrections, or adjustments to the agenda?
None here, ma'am.
Okay, that's great. Council, do you have any additions, adjustments, or corrections to the agenda? Bobby, I see your hand.
Yes, so I would like to discuss how we want to handle a complaint from a citizen that's serving on a committee regarding how to deal with the issue and kind of how we want to look at it and what we want to do, because I don't think we've really dealt with that on council while I've been here.
Okay,
so I'd really like to discuss that and see what we want to do.
Okay, we'll add that to the business of the city council, and that'll be 9.2.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I see, Dawn, you have a hand up? I can't hear you if you're talking. Counselor Kenyon? Are you there? Okay. She may be stuck. Counselor Hollett, I see your hand up also. Why don't you go ahead?
I just wanted to talk real quick about our work session on the 1st and discussion points for council rules.
Great. So 9.3, work session and council rules. Great. Dawn, can you speak now? Are you stuck? I hope she's not having a
She
hard
just
time
sent the
staying
chat
on.
through saying that she wants to talk about huts for the warming center.
Okay. Is she unable to join us?
I don't know. I just saw it flash across. Oh, right there. Citizen complaint email.
Okay.
It's coming up on my screen.
Okay, so, Counselor Kenyon, is there a reason why you're not able to participate other than through the chat? Okay.
Are you able to see those things come through, Kathy?
I can see the chat, yeah, but I can't, I can't hear her at all.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Oh, I can even see you now.
Okay.
There you go.
Did you get the 3 things? The planning?
I can't hear Dawn.
Can everyone else hear me?
I can hear you great.
Can you turn it up a little bit?
I can hear you.
If I can find a volume.
Yeah, take your time.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
Can you hear me now?
Barely.
Having a hard time, Jackie?
Yeah, I can hear everyone else just fine. I just can't hardly hear Dawn.
Okay, so Dawn, I think I have the warming center, a citizen's complaint, email, and a planning applicant. I don't know, working on it, you said. Oh, that's the voice.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, 9.4 then, warming center. 9.5, you have a citizen's complaint. There's 2 different things.
I'm wondering if the citizen's complaint isn't the same as mine.
Counselor Kenyon, is the citizen's complaint the same as the planning applicant?
No, not that, as in what I
I
9.4.
was asking Dawn. Dawn, is the citizen's complaint the same as the planning applicant?
Hello, can you hear me now?
You're pretty soft. You're really soft, actually.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna try to.
Okay.
She comes over loud on my,
Okay, can you hear me now?
That's a little better. That's a little better. Yeah.
Yeah, I added an external mic with the headset, if you can
Okay.
hear me.
That is
right.
better.
That's
So,
good. So,
to answer Bobby, no, it's a different complaint. I'm referring to the one that came in by email that was forwarded to the whole council.
That's it's the same one.
just a minute. Is this the same as the planning applicant?
No,
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed to know. So I have a 9.6 then planning applicant. Got it. Sweet. Let me get rid of the chat here. So I can still see my hands raised. Okay, so Chrissy, I still see a hand raised. Did you have more to say?
No, I just need to take my hand down.
Okay. And Dawn?
yeah, I'll get it.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's move on then.
yeah,
Yes,
excuse me.
no, okay. Audie, go ahead.
There is one thing I'd like to go over, and that's the little statement when they fill out that they are responsible for any actions.
Okay, I think that's what we're about to cover. I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that's,
We will address that.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Audie. Okay, be sure and take your hand down now. There you go. Okay. All right, council. Let's move into public comment. So first, let's take anybody who is at the WAC. And Brian, do we have anybody at the WAC who would like to make a comment?
No, actually, I'm all by myself.
You're all by yourself? Okay. And so now I will take any comment from the public who is on their computer. And since I can't see everybody, if you have the ability to raise your hand with a little blue hand and know how to do it, please do so. If you do not know how to do that, it is okay to unmute yourself and then just identify yourself and wait for me to identify or to acknowledge you. So is there anybody who has a public statement? Okay, I don't hear anything and I don't see any hands waving at me. So I will move on with no public comments. Okay, and let's move on to mayor's comments, announcements, and proclamations. I don't have much to say. Oh, I do want to step back just a minute to addictions and corrections and adjustments. We have Orchid who's here and is going to do a presentation. I'm going to actually move them up in the agenda so they don't have to wait all the way down to the business of the city administrator. And right after my comments, I'm going to go ahead and ask Orchid if they would like to do a COVID presentation so that they don't have to wait too terribly long. I know they start pretty early in the morning. So here's comments. I just wanted to comment that I've been to a couple meetings, El Rapo. We're still working for an executive director, going through a nationwide search on that. I've been involved in the rec committees at the U.S. Forest Service as well as the collaborative. We're looking at projects that the Forest Service can earmark for funding in our local area and how we can use the money that is coming to us through stewardship dollars. I just wanted to point out that we have 675 new cases in Lane County yesterday in one day, and that here in Oakridge, we have an all-time high of 64 with less than 10 in the last 2 weeks. So that's about all I have to say. And with that, Sarah and Dr. Volpe, are you available?
I am here, Kathy. This is Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. And is Dr. Volpe here too?
I am right here.
Wonderful. So we asked Sarah and Dr. Volpe if they'd like to address the council and the community at large about what's going on with COVID and the vaccine process and all of that. So Sarah and Dr. Volpe, thank you for coming, and I'll let you take the floor.
Absolutely. So I think, Sarah, what would be best here if you want to start off and sort of give the brief overview, and then I can add my thoughts at the end, and then address any questions, particularly around any vaccine or questions or concerns. Sarah, if you want to take the lead.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Volpe. Thank you, council and Kathy and the city for having us here today. We really appreciate it. So COVID vaccine, we have been working diligently at Orchid to ensure that we are getting vaccine into our community. We have also worked to find out how the vaccine process will be coming down from Oregon Health Authority, how the vaccine will be phased out. Currently, Orchid got an initial allocation of vaccine of 100 vaccines. We worked with our health partners in the community to ensure that all healthcare workers who wanted a vaccine were offered a vaccine. We then worked on the next phase according to OHA, which were our childcare professionals, teachers, those who work in schools with our kids. So we have been vaccinating. We worked with Rita Dolan at the school district to ensure that any teacher who works in our school district had the opportunity, teachers, staff, and even bus drivers, childcare providers, anyone who works with our kids, had the opportunity to get a vaccine. The next phase in our vaccine rollouts, we'll be working to identify not only high-risk medical patients of Oakridge, but high-risk medical patients that may work with organizations like Senior and Disabled Services, who may not have access to things like mass vaccination events that may happen in town. We did find out today that those sites that were allocated initial vaccine should be receiving their next set of secondary vaccine on 4 weeks from the initial allocation. We are continuing to work with public health and monitor mass vaccine events that may be happening in town, and we will certainly communicate those. We are also working with the pharmacy next door to ensure that we get all our health partners in the community who can get vaccine to be able to get vaccine into our community so that we can vaccinate those who live here who would like a vaccine. So I think that's my big event.
Yeah, I think that's great, Sarah. So, you know, what I would add to that is that Oakridge's role in all of this is sort of the medical lead on it. OHA and particularly Lane County Public Health and some of my meetings with Pat Ludke have dictated that the healthcare providers in areas, particularly in rural areas, are going to be the ones responsible for vaccinating their areas. That public health will try to assist, but it'll be only in an assisting role and not a lead role, at least at this time. I haven't gotten any hints that they're going to be taking the lead of vaccinating any particular group, that they're going to be more focused on distribution of the vaccines and then maybe coordinating mass vaccination events in large urban areas such as Eugene. That being said, knowing that Lane County Public Health is working with its local partners in Eugene, such as Mackenzie Willamette and Peace Health and the University of Oregon, to coordinate large mass vaccination events. What our target is with regards to this is working with the city to develop mass vaccination events, but our clinic in particular sort of covering some of the gaps that might be missed by that. Particularly underserved, those without access, the understanding being that those with access are going to be able to get to these mass vaccination events in order to be vaccinated, that they're going to have multiple opportunities to get vaccinated. And there's going to be a group of the population that are going to be challenged by this, particularly early on in many of these older patients with chronic diseases or mobility issues that limit their ability to either get to a mass vaccination event or, even worse, a mass vaccination staged in Oakridge. So us being that access point for that, plus our limited logistics in terms of manpower at Orchid, you know, if we're only giving 10 vaccinations a day, that's not going to really move the needle a whole lot, but it's going to be good for the access of those individuals. So we do need to come up with some sort of plan, which we are working with the city and the county on, in terms of coordinating mass vaccination events to get the city and surrounding areas vaccinated in a timely manner.
Great, thank you. Can you specifically address the difference between your patients and patients and individuals in general in Oakridge, so that it's clear? Are you talking about your patients will be taken care of differently, or are they part of the mass vaccination pool if they're not in the high risk group or in the other two areas that you've already covered?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest difference, and Sarah can maybe speak to the logistics of this a little bit more, but the biggest difference is just going to be, we have been able to adequately identify our own patients. If we don't know who's not our patient. We don't know anything about their home status, their mobility status, their access status. That does make it more challenging to us. So there will be a preference for our patients only because of the simple logistics of it, or their known status and their frequent monitoring, working with our community health worker, those sort of things. So that'll be the main difference. But you know, we are trying to reach outside our own realm. For example, with the school teachers, we're trying to get the school teachers vaccinated, whether they're our patient or not. That group is small compared to the group of people over the age of 65 with chronic disease in Oakridge. So it's much easier to take on that load. However, taking on the load of individuals over the age of 65 with chronic disease or other risk factors might be a bigger pull for us, and we might only be able to focus on our patients in particular, and maybe have to coordinate with the city on how do we fill the gaps in other ways.
Okay.
So
Great.
So to add to that a little bit, Kathy, we are working with some of the health partners in the area, such as Senior Disabled Services, to identify those patients that may not be able to attend mass vaccination events or have access. So we are doing our best to reach out to those health partners in our community who may have the ability to identify another subset of patients who don't really have access or the ability to get vaccine outside of Oakridge.
Okay. And I know a lot of this is up in the air, and Audie, I see your hand. So just a minute, let me ask this one question here. Do we have some sort of a time frame, or is it even possible to give us a time frame as to when we'll be able to see more vaccinations coming our way and institute one of those mass vaccination plans?
So I actually think that that's going to be dependent on how public health is going to distribute larger distributions of the vaccine in Oakridge. My understanding is that the pharmacy put in quite a large order, and that it would probably be a pretty good resource to use for some sort of mass vaccination event, depending on how big an event we're planning. Is it going to be 100 patients, 200 patients, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days? How we want to allocate that. I know we're having some meetings around that. And so that would be quite helpful. Really, that's the biggest barrier. I think once we figure out when we can get a mass distribution mass allocation of vaccines, then I think logistically we've already got some plans in place that we could make things happen fairly quickly. That being said, I know that you know, with the signing of the Defense Production Act today, really ramping up vaccine manufacturing and preventing any shortages, as well as the release of several thousand more vaccines to the state of Oregon. I would think that distribution should come fairly quickly in the next couple of weeks. I don't think that I would hope that we're not waiting until March or April, that we might be able to do something in February or early March would be ideal.
Wonderful, thank you. So Councilors, Audie, I see your hand up, and please go ahead and ask a question if you have one.
Okay, I wanted to know, or this is just Orchid Health, right? Is the other clinic down here been invited to the meeting? And do we know what they're doing as far as vaccine?
So
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, Kathy.
That's all right.
So yes, we have reached out to Nova Health. Nova Health actually, my understanding is turned over all their vaccine to the county early on, as they here in Oakridge didn't have the capability of vaccinating.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, Councilors, before we let them go home and get some sleep?
Oh, one other.
Go ahead, Audie.
Is Orchid Health putting out to then a note or mailing to everyone saying that they can come to your clinic and get vaccinated? Or
so we
how's
aren't
that working?
already doing a mass open door. Unfortunately, we don't have the staffing capacity for that. We have reached out to those groups that were very specified by OHA, such as healthcare workers, teachers, childcare workers, to ensure that those really critical groups got vaccinated. And we are doing our best to work with other health partners like senior and disabled services to identify patients that can't get to a mass vaccination event. But unfortunately, no, Orchid cannot just open the floodgate to say anyone who wants a vaccine can get one from us. We just don't have the staffing capabilities for that.
Yeah, so basically what we're doing is we're having a working registry where we're categorizing at least our known patients based on where they fall in those categories, because most of those categories are health related, right? Age or health related. We can identify those factors. It's going to be a little bit harder when we start, if segregation starts happening based on essential worker versus not essential worker. We don't necessarily have that demographic information. So we'll have to figure out a way to maybe identify that. But initially, it's some of these higher risk, it's going to be higher risk medical groups, diagnosis groups that we can identify. And then we have those lists, and we're already building out those lists for patients. And when we start getting down into that, and once all the teachers and healthcare workers and all those other people are vaccinated, we start getting into those lists. We're actually going to look at those lists and say, all right, which of these patients, because we know with our community health worker, which of these patients are most likely at risk and not going to be able to access an event, and probably uniquely target those patients and reach out to them and say, hey, we've got a space. Do you want to do that? And sort of prioritize those patients. And then after that occurs, probably open it up to our patients and say, hey, all right, we have 8 vaccinations. Do we have 8 people, first come, first serve, that wants to get it, that aren't otherwise going to a mass vaccination event? There's going to be little things like that occur. It's not always going to be consistent, just because some people will decline vaccination or otherwise say, hey, I'm going to go into town this weekend and have it done. I'd rather, not use up a resource. So it's going to be sort of this working problem.
So are you working with the other clinic in town to find out their senior needed list, or teachers if they have to be with them and not with Orchid?
So we actually, for the teachers, Audie, we reached out to Rita Doland.
Okay.
So we had the entire district email sent out, and anyone who worked for the school district that wanted a vaccine could get it from us. As far as I know, the other clinics not been very engaged with us in terms of, they have a process for their patients, and I can't speak to that process.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a legal logistic gymnastics that would have to be involved with that, just because their information would be considered HIPAA information, and we'd have to figure out how to, if they chose to do that, we would have to figure out how to do that in a HIPAA protected fashion. I'm sure it's possible, but there's a lot of legal hoops that we'd have to jump through, because we can't just ask another hospital for their entire patient list without, potentially, we'd have to justify, is there a health reason for it? What are the HIPAA reasons that we are requesting patients' health information from another clinic? We want to be very cognizant of patients' health information and not just be able to give it to anybody that requests it, even if it is another clinic.
Right. Thank you,
Okay,
Dr.
thank you.
Dawn, I see your hand up.
Thank you. I wanted to inquire if it's known whether or not vaccines will be available, whether it's through you or anywhere, at no cost to people who are not insured.
Yes,
so
so the
currently-
vaccine, sorry, go ahead, Dr. Volpe.
Oh, currently the vaccine is no cost for administration or anything. The state and the federal government are burdening the entire cost of all vaccination right now at this point. There's probably going to be organizational costs in setting up some of these mass vaccination events that are are secondary, but the actual cost of the vaccine and the actual administration of it itself, patients are not paying for it. Nobody gets charged for an office visit or for a vaccine. There's just no cost associated with it for anybody.
Great.
Oh, thank you.
Good question.
Now, to add a clarifying statement to that, it is billable to your insurance for the administration fees, if you have insurance, but for those that are uninsured, there is zero cost.
Okay, good.
Thank
Bobby, I
you.
see your hand up.
Sorry. I've had kids going back and forth. I'm trying to stay muted as much as I can. So I've been participating in the work group as a senior and disability services worker. And I think just to provide a little more transparency for what I'm doing, with one of my coworkers, we were able to identify about 71 people locally that have a home care worker come to their home and work with them. And I've been getting some further clarification from my management, but at this point, what I will be doing is a coworker and I will be reaching out to each individual, talking to them, seeing if they would like a COVID vaccine, identifying what their needs are, if they're able to leave their home or not, if they're, might need a home visit to get the vaccination, and then identifying if they're Orchid patients or not, and then getting permission to share their information with Orchid, which I won't be able to do anything until I have that permission. So, and then once I get that done, the information will go to Orchid, and we'll work together to really target those people that have the hardest time and are the absolute highest risk in our community. So,
yeah, we really appreciate that, Bobby. It's been invaluable as we talk about this in the group. Just to do this. Any other questions from council before we say goodbye? No? Okay, well, Dr. Volpe and Sarah, thank you so much for coming, and we appreciate all the efforts that you're going to keep our community safe and healthy and all that. And we look forward to talking to you at another time and getting our arms poked by you, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys, and I hope to see all of you at some point getting the vaccine.
That's right. Thank you.
Yes, give us a call. We'll get you on the list.
All right. Okay, let's move on, council, to council comments. We're going to go through, and this is just general comments. We have added all of your requests into council business from the city council. So are there any announcements or statements that council has to make? And I see Dawn's hand up, unless that was just left up.
No, it's new.
Okay, got it.
Thank you. A few things I came across in my notes that weren't necessarily topics for discussion, but one is wondering if we could get a copy of Brian's contract emailed to the council.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one was, I would also like to request a copy of the MOU with the disc golf course. And then I don't know if this is appropriate now or later, but I wanted to mention that I would like to consider postponing discussion on the supplemental budget tonight. And my reason for that is that I have had a family emergency that's kept my attention for several days. I have not been able to prepare myself for this discussion tonight. Hoping that we could consider that.
We'll bring that up when we get to the supplementary budget. And
okay.
Brian, would you send out the two things requested then to all of the council?
Will do.
Thank you, Brian. Is there any others? Any other council comments? I don't see any. I'm going to move on to the consent agenda. This consent agenda is approval of the minutes from December 3rd, 2020. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Bobby, Councilor Whitney has made a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilor Kenyon. And Jackie, will you call for a vote, please?
Mayor Holston,
Aye.
Councillor Bjarnson,
It's Bjornson, Jackie. Aye.
Councillor Coker,
Aye.
Councillor Spleedoff, Councillor Spleedoff,
Aye.
Councillor Hollett,
Aye.
Councillor Kenyon,
Aye.
Councillor Whitney,
Aye.
That passes. Thank you, council. Let's move on to the business from the city councilor. 9.1 is councilor committee assignments. In your packet, you will see a memo from me with council. Hold on, I'm flipping pages too here. Council assignments, proposed council assignments. And I am asking for approval from the council for these assignments. I did receive an email earlier from Councilor Bjornson indicating that she did not want to serve on the library board. So please strike her name from that. Is there a councilor that would like to serve on the library board?
Kathy, oh, sorry. I'm currently on that committee and I don't mind staying if that's fine.
Okay, so you would be willing to serve on that if there wasn't another counselor available?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Is there anyone who would like to serve on that who isn't currently? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
Oh.
Got my hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Audie.
Okay.
I'm sorry, my bad. Look to the right. Okay, Audie. Yes, go ahead, Audie. Would you like to serve on the library board?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it.
Okay, wonderful. So please replace Melissa's name with Audie's for the library board. And I'll just go down through these for those that are online and listening. So admin committee is Councilor Kenyon. Community Services Committee is Councilor Whitney. Public Safety Committee is Councilor Coker. Audit Committee is Mayor and Councilor Kenyon. The Library Board is Councilor Spleedoff. RTMP currently is the Mayor, Councilor Kenyon, and Councilor Whitney. And ODAC is Councilor Hollett. In addition, you'll see on this, I have listed just so for your information, the agencies and groups that we also participate in as a city and are staffed by myself with the exception of Lane Economic Committee. And I staff that as well as Councilor Hollett when they meet, and they haven't met lately. But those are, and I'll just run down the list: the LRAPA Pollution Authority, the LRAPA Budget Committee. Actually, Councilor Hollett, are you interested in serving on the Budget Committee again this year for LRAPA? They haven't asked us yet, but I know they will in next week or so.
I can. It's a pretty simple, pretty easy one to do. But if there's another counselor that wants to do it, I wouldn't begrudge someone else kind of getting an idea of what LRAPA is about. So
this is the Budget Committee for LRAPA. It's not the actual board. And it's a commitment. What was it, about 4 months, do you think? And it was every month?
yeah, and then the only reason I said that is just as you go through the budget, you kind of realize a bigger picture of what LRAPA does when you start looking at their line items and listening to the discussion that comes up.
Thank you, Councilor Hollett. That's good. So that usually begins in, I believe they begin the end of February, possibly March. They go through June. They meet once a month, and currently it's a Zoom meeting. If those stop, then they actually occur in Springfield, and it's in the middle of the day. Normally, it's either, was it before noon or right after 3? But one of those days, about those times. So if you're interested, if anybody's interested, if not, Councilor Hollett, I'm going to put your name forward for it. The Southern Willamette Forest Collaborative is the monthly meeting I attend. The Oakridge Westford Chamber of Commerce is a monthly meeting that I attend. UBRA is a monthly meeting I attend. The LCOG, which is our Lane Council of Governments, is a monthly meeting I attend. The Lane Act Commission on Transportation is a monthly meeting that I attend. The Lane Economic Committee is supposed to be a monthly meeting, but we haven't had one recently, and I attended as well as Councillor Hollett. And then there is a mayor's meeting, which is a quarterly meeting that I attend also, and that's all the Lane County mayors. So here's my explanation of it. I believe you have an agenda bill here, item 9.1, and I am looking for a motion.
Mayor, you have two hands.
Oops, two hands. Thank you for making me look. Councillor Hollett, go ahead, please.
I do have interest in serving on the Public Safety Committee. So I don't know how Michelle feels about if she really has a desire to do that. I am not opposed at all, but that is another committee that I do feel like I have a good background in and an interest on helping on that committee.
Thank you. I think Councillor Coker has indicated that she wants to serve on that committee, so I think I am leaving my recommendation standing. Councillor Kenyon?
My question was regarding the RTMP committee. If I remember correctly, we have not finalized the new resolution that was proposed.
Yes.
Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so I was just thinking out loud that the new one, which does need to get reviewed to approve sometime soon, I don't think it has 3 counselors.
That's correct. And we'll go ahead and abide by what we have currently. And then when we review that, which will be in the next few weeks,
Okay.
if we change it, then we will change the assignments also. But I don't want to go off something that we haven't approved as a council. But you're right. Thank you for bringing that up. So I still see Councillor Hollett's hand, so I'm assuming it's just left there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And Councillor Kenyon also. So I am looking for a motion then.
I move we approve the proposed committee assignments as promulgated in Exhibit 1.
Do I hear a second?
Glasses back on.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jackie.
Okay, I don't know who that was exactly, but.
Councillor Coker.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Coker. The second was Councillor Coker. Is there any other discussion? If there's no discussion, Jackie, please call for a vote.
Councillor Kenyon.
There was. I was trying to unmute myself.
I'm
This is
sorry,
Bob.
Councillor Splitoff, do you have something to say?
Yes.
Yes.
So do I read this right that the mayor appoints all the people of the council to these meetings?
Yes, I appoint, and it's with your approval. I can't just appoint without your approval. That's why this is an agenda bill, so that you can look at who I am appointing and say yes or no.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, is there any other discussion? All right, Jackie, will you please call for a vote?
Yes. Councillor Kenyon.
Aye.
Mayor Holston.
Aye.
Councillor Bjornson.
Aye.
Councillor Hollett.
Aye.
Councillor Whitney.
Aye.
Councillor Splitoff.
Aye.
Councillor Coker.
Aye.
Thank you, Council. I appreciate that. Let's move on to 9. See, I get to read my chicken scratch just a minute here. We're going to move on to 9.2. And I think Councillor Hollett, that was from you, and you mentioned council. And I'm not quite sure what was following that, but you had something in mind. So would you please go ahead and speak?
Yeah, at our last meeting, I brought up that I would like us to have a work session to discuss our council rules. And my intentions were two things. One, that we have an opportunity for new counselors to go through the council rules with us, and we can talk some of that out and maybe help educate a little bit, and we can talk through things. But also I've seen areas in our council rules that we just completed that we're currently not following as we set forth in our council rules. So I think this is an opportunity for this new council to look at it and those key points, and then discuss if we're going to revise them or if we're going to actually keep them as is and follow them.
And have you reached out to the city administrator to point out those areas that aren't being adhered to, so that we can make sure that we have the proper materials as well as any training we may need for it?
We've discussed it publicly in council meeting.
Have you reached out to the CA as I suggested?
No, because I believe it's a council topic that we decide as a council, and when we discuss it, then we come up with what we want to do, and then at that point we forward it on to him and direct it to him. And so what I'm doing right now is bringing it to the 7 of us so that we can talk about what we want and then direct it to him.
Well, I believe at the last meeting, I asked that you would reach out to him so that we would have the material ready so that we could have that discussion. And since you didn't do that, it's not on the agenda, so we won't be discussing it. However, we will, of course, cover it in our work session, which is already scheduled. And I am actually really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good training session, as well as reminder for all of us who have already functioned as council and mayor. And it will absolutely give us the opportunity to look at things to see how they're working, which is, I believe, our intention when we put it together, was to see, let's how this works and what isn't working, and then go through there.
Okay, so I have one more thing to mention. I received an email from the city administrator this afternoon saying that he needed the information by close of business tomorrow. So I'm bringing this topic up now for our council to discuss, and then that will give him enough time before close of business by tomorrow, which is what Brian's email states. So it should still be on the work session agenda for the 1st.
Yes, absolutely. It will be on the work session agenda. Absolutely.
Okay, so
included.
So I guess is what I'm looking for is dialogue from everybody here, not just you. We have
that dialogue begins at the work session. Why I'm asking you to reach out to the city administrator is so that we can do things in a business-like fashion, so that we can be prepared. He is your partner. He is helping us to do these things. If you would prefer that we bring everything right now and discuss it now and then discuss it again, I think that kind of is a bit of a waste of time. We're going to discuss it at the work session. I'm assuming you will bring it up. I was just hoping that if we knew ahead of time so it could be on the work session agenda, we would be able to specifically key in on that as we do our preparation, which we need to do at home. Read through your council rules and procedures, write down any notes you have that you don't understand, or for us who have been in council and mayor, highlight those things that aren't working so that we come prepared to that work session. So that's not, so you had 9.2 and 9.3, and then
I had one also, and I've had my hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Bobby.
I just wanted to make a comment about what Christy or Councilor Hollett had said. I think it's great that we, and a really good idea, that we relook at the council rules and make sure they're working for as we intended them to. And, as we've had a chance to work through them and apply them, making sure that they really do serve the purpose for what we need them for. And then one of those 9 point whatevers that you have written down, one of them was mine. I have one about a committee issue.
Okay, all right.
Okay, well, I just want to say one more thing. The reason I was bringing this up tonight was to make sure I was covering my basis on the bullet points that I wanted to bring up to Brian, to make sure that there isn't anything else that other counselors would like to see us discuss on those council rules. That is why I was hoping to discuss it.
All right, well, that's a different thing. So council, I think Councilor Hollett is it is wise to remind everyone. It's time to go through your council rules. Be sure you look at those things that you don't understand or you have questions about. Come prepared to discuss them at the work session. If you have questions about them, reach out to me, reach out to Brian. If it's something that is just a matter of I don't understand the language and can help you, so that when we come to our work session, we will have the opportunity to have an educated discussion about what our rules are and how they are working, and suggestions that would improve our ability to work with one another and accomplish the city's business. So I appreciate that. That's, it's a good reminder for all of us to come prepared. All right, so I have 9.4, the warming center, and I think Dawn.
Kathy.
You have one more hand.
Oh, Dawn, you have a hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what's being discussed about the work session. I'm wondering if Councillor Hollett's concern is that there might not be enough time in the work session, since we have planned to discuss another topic on that session as well. And that maybe that was why our city administrator was trying to clarify what all we wanted to discuss. I had actually fully intended to already have reviewed and made some notes and emailed them about some things that I want to discuss in that meeting. But, due to the emergency that I've had this week, I haven't been able to get to that yet. Is it still something that you want us to do ahead of time to help you prepare for the meeting, Brian?
Yes, since it's on the agenda, and we'll have a kind of whatever Councillor Hollett decides to send in, and whoever else wants to send anything in can before tomorrow night. But yes.
Oh, is it tomorrow?
No. That's when I asked Councillor Hollett to turn in her agenda item. The meeting is not till the 1st of February. So it was just to comply with a 10-day advance notice. But in any case, if you come up with stuff after that, yeah, I think it'd be great for the group to see it. I can forward it out to everybody just so they're all on the same page, and perhaps have some time to prepare before they show up on the 1st.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Dawn. So my next point is the warming center, 9.4. Go ahead.
Yes, I had a discussion earlier this week with Tink, and I know I've already mentioned.
Whoop.
Dawn, we lost you.
We lost you. Okay, you froze out, Dawn. So I'm gonna just, if you can still hear me, we're gonna go on, but then when you, oh, you're kind of coming back.
Oh, am I cutting out? Gosh.
You just missed probably the last minute and a half or minute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that's,
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now and you're clear.
Okay. Tink and another citizen are wondering if they can use one of the warming huts to distribute meals at night rather than being out in the open.
I spoke to Tink about that, and she does not want to use that. And we are actually going to be using the warming huts for the purpose that they are intended, beginning on Sunday night, as long as the weather doesn't change. I asked her about her storage and her distribution. She is going to be doing more to-go boxes as opposed to serving people. And in fact, she's actually removing some of the things that she has in storage at the WAC, and she's found other places that she is going to store that it'll be more accessible for her. So thank you for bringing that up. I don't think she needs it though. Thank you.
Okay.
And then the next, go ahead. I heard so. No.
This is Audie.
Yes, Audie. What?
So I've been going by there and I see the lights on.
Yes.
In there. Is that for a purpose or?
To prevent vandalism. They've been broken into once. So they can be seen well.
Okay.
It also
How
serves
does the,
a little dry.
how does the light prevent?
Well, it's just easier to see, that's all.
Oh,
you know.
okay. Yeah.
And Brian also indicated that a little bit of light helps keep, you know, the condensation out, moisture.
Okay.
As well, there's a closed circuit video system, and the light would help. If someone did break in, you might be able to see their face.
Right. Okay, so let's move on to 9.5. Dawn, this was yours. I have this written down as citizen complaint.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me, but my, the one I wanted to bring up is the one that came in by email regarding the amount of objects that are on Commercial Street across from the homes in either city property or railroad property. I don't know whose it is. I'm wondering if we are responding to that as, you know, if the city's already responded, or should we individually be investigating this? Or what are we going to do to handle this?
And so where did this complaint come in from?
Email from Brian.
Oh, I vaguely remember that. Yeah, you're right.
So I can provide an
go ahead.
update if you'd like, Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'll also ask the chief if he has anything to add when I'm done. So yes, we did become aware of an email or an email from a citizen. And I told him that we would investigate and provide feedback. That is a focus area for the city and code enforcement right now. Officer Miller has been spending a lot of time down there. The chief of police did go visit the complainant and let him listen to him, and then explain to him the current things that we're doing to combat that problem. And the complainant sent me a note thanking me, and I said, well, the only thing I failed to do was provide you solid feedback. I did the investigation and the action, but no feedback, so I apologize to him for that. But I think we're on the right track with this, but I'll defer to the chief of police if you have anything to add on top of that, Chief.
Yeah, Officer Miller's working on several cases on there. And then at some point in time, either Sergeant McPherson and I or both of us will have to go talk to the railroad, because technically speaking, all this stuff south of Commercial is railroad property. And historically, the railroad has given people permission to use that property. So technically speaking, if there was violations, it's the railroads is the violator, not the people. So they'll I will defer some of this to my supervisor, as we'll have to figure out a game plan for that and talk to the railroad as well.
Great. Dawn, does that answer? I see your hand still up, but I'm asking if that helps answer your question.
Yes, part of it. It does help to know whose property that is, because another part of it for me in looking at the situation is that there's actually a lot of branches down that adds to the not very attractive look of the whole roadway there. And so I wondered if that was city to clean up, or.
Well, you dropped your voice again. I can see you, but I can't hear you talking anymore. So that is railroad property, as Brian indicated, and I would assume then that the conversation as to whether or not people should be parking things or putting things on it can also be expanded to whose responsibility is it then to keep the branches and that type of thing up. Dawn, I see, no, Bobby, I see your hand up. Bobby, are you there?
I'm here, sorry. No, I just wanted to make sure you didn't forget my item as we were going through.
Don't worry, I have a whole list here.
Okay.
Okay. All right, then let's move on. So the next one I have is, that's very interesting. I have a 9.6. So Bobby, that's you.
Okay. So I believe we all received copies of an email about a complaint that a citizen had that serves on one of our committees, and where the citizen is having issues with another committee member. And I just wanted to discuss how we want to address that, because I think it's important that we do address it. And personally, I feel like it's something we should do in executive session, but I don't know if that is the appropriate avenue, because I don't want to talk negatively about a citizen on, in a council meeting, because I don't think that's appropriate. But I just really want to talk about how we want to address it and then actually address the issue.
Okay, so here's the standard. Neither one of the individuals that we are not going to speak about are elected officials. They serve on the volunteer, and they serve at the pleasure of the council. This is a personal issue between the two of them, and our city administrator has indicated to them that it is not a council issue. It is not a committee issue, and that whether they choose to stay on the committee or not is entirely up to them. And that there isn't any accusations or any statements that are worthy of the committee taking up. So what happens is, if there is a member in the committee who seems to have violated something, that violated the rules, that the committee itself feels is no longer an asset on the committee can ask the mayor to remove them. The mayor cannot, just like appointing, remove on her own. She would then, or he would then, take it to the council and say, there is an issue and we would like to remove this individual for this reason. It has to be a reason that pertains to the committee, not just in general. So that's the process.
Okay, so if reading in between that, I'm going to assume that it would be a good idea for the counselor that is on that committee to possibly address this within that committee and follow up on it, and then bring it back if need be.
If that counselor would like to do that, this has been addressed both by myself as well as the city administrator to both of the individuals. I believe at this point it is an opportunity for two citizens to figure out how to mend their differences without involving the city. So.
Okay, I'm just concerned because it is a committee that's part of the city, and what our committee members do reflects on the city and reflects on our decisions as a council. So
right.
I just want to make sure it gets addressed. So I'll reach out to the counselor on that committee, and I'm sure that person's already seen the emails, and I'll just reach out to that person and see what they think, and just make sure the two people are connecting. So
thank you. Chrissy, I see a blue hand. Councilor Hollett.
I guess I have a differing opinion. I think if we have two committee members that there's an issue going on, it makes that committee no longer effective. And it sounds to me like there's multiple issues going on, and it's affecting the progress of the committee. So I do think it is where the council needs to take a look at it. We do have verbiage in our council rules to remove committee members, and I think we should discuss that. I'm sure this isn't the first time or the last time something like this happens. I'm not done. I did read the email, and I went ahead and contacted that person and listened. I'm sure I don't have 100% of the story, but I did listen to some of it, and to me, it does sound like it's more than personal. And I just think it's affecting that committee, and they're not going to be successful with what's going on between them.
So I agree with you, Councilor Hollett. Yes, we do have it. And there is issues that are involved. I have spoken to both individuals, and much of what they have issues are personal, which we will not go into, and the committee doesn't need to go into. The bottom line is, if that committee feels that these individuals are not able to work well as a committee together, then they need to bring their recommendation to the council. And that recommendation can be that both of them no longer serve on the committee, that one of them no longer serve on the committee, or the other. Now, I don't know how you're going to decide who it is that serves and who doesn't, but I do know that the committee itself needs to bring that recommendation to the mayor so that we can bring it to council. But it is not up to the council and it's not up to the committee to help them resolve their personal problems. If the problem is that they no longer can work together and move the objectives of the committee forward, then that is the issue that needs to be addressed. So I think I agree with you, Councillor Hollett, absolutely. But that's the narrow window that this needs to be performed in. So the committee itself can decide whether they want to bring a recommendation forward to not, we are not a hearing. We are not there to help them solve their problem. We are there to determine whether or not the presence of an individual on a committee or 2 individuals or 3 individuals is promoting the committee's objectives. And if it's not, then they can ask that they be removed.
Can those 2 people on that committee talk to the newly appointed counselor on that committee? And then can that counselor come to council and make a recommendation?
That counselor needs to come to the mayor so the mayor can make a recommendation to council.
So I'm confused on that point. Are you saying that it's in your decision or it's the council's decision?
It's the council's decision. It's not ever my decision.
So
But
why
that's
would the
the
counselor
method.
not come to council?
Because
with
that's
their
what the
information?
wording says.
Because
That's
that's
the wording
what?
says. I'm following the wording. The wording says that the mayor can ask that someone be removed and council then it becomes a council issue. That's just the process. It's
I
not.
get that, but you're also saying that if you don't agree with it, then the rest of the
No, I didn't say
council-
that. I didn't say that at all. I said, you bring it to me. I'm not going to say yes or no. I'm
Okay.
going to say, oh,
Okay.
okay, you brought it to me. Now I'm bringing it to council.
Okay, and that's what the clarification I was looking for. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So I think we've made it through all of our additions. Have I?
No.
Which one?
The planning commission.
Oh, yep. One more. I'm sorry. And who was that brought that forward?
Me.
Oh,
John Kenyon.
Councilor Kenyon, go ahead.
I wanted to be able to discuss we received an application, which I believe the person forwarded to the entire council, that has been denied to be put on the agenda for tonight based on them crossing out part of the wording on the application.
That's correct. So we will bring this up to discussion, but we will not discuss the applicant itself. We will discuss the process. We have an application form that we give to all of our volunteers, and they fill it out and remit it. Their signature on it then indicates they want to be considered as an applicant. This particular application did not have a signature, and the city administrator reached out and said, you know, we don't have a signature and you've crossed out part of what our form is. And there was a discussion ensued. In that, it was brought up. Yes.
One clarification, there was a signature, but they had crossed out the liability statement above the signature.
Okay. Okay. So, and because the form was not filled out all the way, the CA accurately said it's not complete. And now as a council, we will have the opportunity at our next meeting to look at our volunteer form and determine whether or not, or to discuss whether or not the pieces on it, the liability form, the request for name, state of birth or city of birth, and birth date for a background check are what we want on our form. And the reasons why they're there, our insurance company's opinion, as well as our attorney's opinion. So it will be discussed, but it would be inappropriate for us to take one applicant who says, I don't like this, move it forward without reviewing the whole process. It would be unfair to everyone else too. So I have actually reached out to the applicant on a couple occasions, both by phone and email, and said, I welcome your application. We are going to review this. If you don't want to fill this out as it is, that's fine. but we won't take it under consideration until council has decided if it should be changed at all, based in a general concept, not for one person specifically.
Okay, Mayor,
Yes.
I was just going through this and Amy Kelly filled the application out, but she neglected to put her date of birth and place of birth. So, and this was forwarded to us to open up, and that was for the appointment of Administrative Advisory Committee. So if she didn't fill out all of that too, then we can't take her application under advisement today.
Mayor, one comment.
Yes, please go ahead. Go ahead.
It was a reappointment. So we already have a background check that I assume was conducted when she first signed on. I didn't see a need to do a second background check.
So does that mean that we actually are performing background checks now? Because a year ago we weren't.
Since I have been here, I have not performed one background check on any volunteer. I've done 3 background checks, all on staff members taking jobs aboard the staff.
Thank you for clarifying. So Kathy, after you described, I guess what I wanted to point out was that I wanted to be able to discuss that part tonight on the agenda.
Right.
The part about the indemnity clause.
We won't discuss it tonight because according to our charter 20.7 and our rules section 5C, no item shall be placed on the agenda until it is ready for council action and or consideration. While we may bring it up for discussion, it is not ready because we have not had the opinion of the insurance or the our attorney, which I think is really important in this matter to understand. So we'll be ready for the next agenda item.
But I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules so that we can have a discussion on it.
If you would make a motion, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and discuss this indemnification clause tonight.
Do I hear a second? All right, there's a second. I will allow brief discussion on this because I do not want to waste the council's time. We will be discussing this at the next meeting. There will be no decision made as to whether to move this applicant forward or not, because what we are discussing is the form itself. I have no opinion, and in my opinion, right now.
Kathy, there's a motion and a second on the table. I think we have to take a vote.
No, we have to discuss.
I can discuss it.
Oh, okay.
So in my opinion, I don't have enough information to discuss this because I don't have the opinion of my attorney and I don't have the opinion of my insurance. It would be listening to each of our individual opinions on this, which in themselves are important. And then we would redo this again once we have those opinions at our next council meeting.
If I might interject something really quick, it's not an opinion. It's factual, and I'm happy to email it out to the entire council if you'd like. But what I've done is looked on the websites for every city in Lane County and verified that not a single other city other than Springfield, which is what Brian pointed out to me a month and a half ago, has this clause on their form. So I'm happy to send those. I think it's important for the council to see what other forms look like. And also the one that is on the Springfield form is different than ours. And so that is a key thing that I think the council should consider.
That's excellent. So will you forward those forms and that information to the CA so that it can be included in our agenda packet at our next meeting so that we can consider it all as a council?
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's all I had.
Absolutely.
Okay, and the thing back to this one person that put in their application. They signed it down below.
That application is not going to be considered because they have crossed out part of our application. I am not
Amy
waiting.
Kelly.
Well, we will consider that because as Brian pointed out, this is a reapplication.
Okay, when was the last time that she had her application?
Audie, you know, I am going to point out to the council that there is a time to be argumentative and there is a time not to be. We have a business of the council to move forward with. If you do not want to accept Amy Kelly's application, then please state so and we will not accept it.
I don't think it works like that. I think
I
the
was
council
asking
would.
Audie.
Oh,
No, it doesn't work like that. It's
Do you want to
every
accept?
time everyone fills out an application, it's supposed to be filled out in its entirety.
All right,
whether
then we
it's
will not.
scribbled
accept
out or
it.
not.
Thank you.
So it would not be fair to someone that scribbled out that thing and someone that did not fill it out, because something could have happened between the last time that this person was on the committee and now.
Well, okay.
So that's my.
We will do this. We will dot the i's and cross the t's and be argumentative with one another. And we will remove her application until such time as that it can be completely complete. And that will, of course, further the business of the council. So let's move on.
Thank you.
Kathy, I've had my hand up, sorry.
Yeah, I
Go
have
ahead,
too.
Bobby. Oh, I see.
Looks like Melissa has as well. So I agree with your statement about, I think we need more information to make a decision on that. And I have a feeling that Dawn feels that way as well. That's just a feeling. So I'm not in a position to be able to make a decision on the application tonight. I don't feel like I have enough information to really make a good decision. And yeah, so that is my comment regarding that. And I do understand what Audie's saying. I get it. It's really hard to
Melissa, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Just a couple things here. First of all, just because it's right on my mind, I think Amy Kelly's application is a bit different than this other one we're talking about. I don't necessarily agree she should be removed from the agenda tonight, just my opinion. But as far as this whole indemnity clause and everything, a few things I wanted to make sure are going to be covered in our next meeting. I wanted to know, when we get the attorney's information and answers and the insurance, CIS, whoever that comes from, I'd like to see what questions are posed and what they're answering, if that's possible.
Absolutely.
I'd also like to know what prompted the change when it was changed. What's the background on that? What made it, become an issue?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure we'll be able to give a good answer. I know it was changed the first year I was a counselor, and our city administrator changed it at that time. I will try to go back and see if there was any discussion at council, but I'm not even sure there was. But let me see what we can find. And thank you, Melissa. You're right. We want to know the questions that are asked and the responses that were received from both the attorney as well as the insurance. So thank you for that point. Okay, Melissa. Bobby, your hand is it still up or is it up again? Okay.
I have my hand up.
I see it. Hold on.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dawn. Go ahead.
Okay, a couple things I wanted to point out. Bobby, I appreciate your comment, but right now our motion was just to suspend the rule so we could have some discussion. It is not to make any decisions on whether or not it should be on the form. I definitely agree with everything that Councillor Bjornson brought up just now, and also agree specifically about the I would still like to have the application for the admin committee to be considered tonight, because the city already has her birthday and whatever other information is not on there today on file due to previous application. I think that's sufficient.
Thank you, Dawn. I see Chief Martin's hand is up.
Yeah, I was just going to give it real quick, not to further anymore, but I know there was something when about the time I was first here as well, that we had to have certain verbiage and certain thing for library people because they were around children.
Right.
And that I think there was a change then.
Yeah, I believe you're right, that the background check was specific for library volunteers because of the access to children, if I remember correctly. Thanks, Chief. Audie, I still see a blue hand. Do you want to speak?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and we've got two counselors saying that they've got it, and the administrator saying they've got her birth date and everything on file.
Okay.
That
all right.
It'll be all right. But I just want to make sure that everybody is treated equal.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Audie.
That we're not
where there's no
paying favors to someone else and someone else not, because we can get ourselves in liability.
That's it. Absolutely right. And a very good point. Councillor Hollett. I see a blue hand.
I just wanted to go back to the discussion about the clause in the application, and I just hope that all the council can read that if they have a chance and think about how many people that might push away from applying for our committees. And the other thing I want to point out is, and I know we'll have advice from our attorney, but I do want to point out that these committees are always advisory committees to the council. The council makes the ultimate decision. So, I know I'll probably end up saying this the next meeting, but I just cannot understand how we're going to hold them liable for any of those things when ultimately they are advisory to us. And I just really hope people consider it's already hard to get people to apply on committees, and they give a lot of their time. Right. And the last thing I want to do is make anyone feel like they're going to have a lawsuit thrown at them. So that's my thing.
Okay, and let's try to remember to repeat all of that at the appropriate time at our next meeting, and I appreciate your input. So let's move on then. We are going to move on to appointments, number 10.
There's a motion still on the table.
Oh, there is a motion on the table. I think
the motion was to discuss, though.
And we discussed it, so we're good. We're just going to move on.
No vote.
Well, I think we should vote.
Well,
I mean, it's the motion and it's on the floor and it hasn't been voted.
Want to remove the motion, Dawn?
I'd be happy to remove the motion.
Thank you. The originator, Councillor Kenyon, has removed your motion. I appreciate it. Thank you. Let's move on to 10 appointments. So the administrative advisory appointment is in your packet, and we have been discussing it. It is Amy Kelly. Hopefully we haven't scared her away. And we also have a second applicant. That name is Jerry Reed. And we have, how many positions do we have open now, Dawn, in there?
I don't have it in front of me, but I believe there's 4.
Okay, that's what I thought too. That's what I thought too. Okay.
There is 4.
So, one is a reappointment, and that is Amy Kelly, and the one is a new appointment. So I am looking for a motion. Typically what we do is interview each of our committee members, and so I'm going to give them the opportunity. Jerry Reed, are you online?
She is.
There I am. Yes.
There you are, Jerry. Wonderful. So Jerry, can you introduce yourself to council and give us a brief summary as to why you would like to serve on the admin committee and what you think you bring to that position?
All right. Name is Jerry Reed. Moved to Oakridge in 1979 when I was 8 years old. Graduated from Oakridge High School, raised 3 sons here, have moved away off and on throughout my life. Am currently living in Oakridge yet again with our 5-year-old daughter who's in kindergarten. And I have in the past served on Policy Council for Head Start, Executive Council for Head Start, Policy Council, the Advisory Board for the Family Resource Center, between like 98 and 05, or yeah, 2005, before I first moved to Maui, and then back in 08. I believe that because I have participated in multiple committees throughout the time that I've lived in Oakridge, including the tree planting festival, the year that they were going to shut it down for its 50th anniversary. With a group of people, we got it to the 501c3 and get going again. And I did that for 2 years also. I think that I have a lot of experience being in committees, listening to all sides of stories and doing research on important topics so that I can be informed. And I'm usually pretty good at bringing people to a point where they can listen to each other and not go up here. They kind of come back down and they open up their minds a little more and think about what they're saying and how they want to continue.
Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. Council, do you have any brief questions that you may like to ask?
This is Bobby. I do.
Go ahead, Bobby.
I was just wondering about legal background or any working on legal items, because you'll be working with the rules and ordinances here shortly, and that's a pretty big task. And I just I'm curious as to what experience you have there.
All of my experience with administrative type items would be through policy council and executive council with Head Start, where we were responsible for voting in those type of things that were brought to us. Elsie, may I please calm down? So legal, nothing other than that, and an open mind and willingness to learn.
Well, I love you.
Let's see, Dawn.
Oh my God.
Yes, hello.
Oh, we lost you, Dawn. I don't hear your voice anymore. Dawn, we can't hear you.
You can type it to me in chat if you want to.
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
No, I hear you.
I'm so sorry I'm having difficulty tonight. I did not come prepared and I apologize for that because normally I would. But I do have faith in the little bit that I know of you, that you, and from what we've spoke, that you would be prepared to do research as needed. And I think you would be an asset to the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. So let's move on to Amy Kelly. Amy, are you on the line?
I am.
Hi, Amy. Thank you
Hello.
for being in there with us. Can you introduce yourself briefly and tell us why you would like to continue on the committee?
Amy Kelly. I've been in Oakridge almost 6 years. And the work that we did the last, I think, year and a half, I sat on it. Dawn could probably clarify that a little bit more. We got a lot accomplished. There's a lot more to do. I know that the charter needs to be revamped. I saw a lot of issues just from my past experience working in the courts. It's more like language, not that they're wrong, but the language needs to be clarified severely. And I could just, it's something that I don't mind doing. The research is not something I mind doing. I know the navigational system through law codes and everything else with the state of Oregon. So I believe I could be a benefit still to this committee.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Are there any counselors who have questions of Amy?
I just have the same question of what legal background or work that she's done or experience in working with legal items.
I have basic background, 30 years of office, HIPAA, GAP procedures and policies, 5 years with the state of Oregon, Douglas County Circuit Court. I ran the probate desk of adult, minor, guardianships, estates, conservatorships, and juvenile department in the circuit court also, going along with also the criminal desk, the civil desk, and domestic relations, both child support and domestic side of divorce. So I have extensive knowledge of criminal codes and ORS codes, and pretty ease of going through them to find out details or specific language that could be used or referenced to of, updating ordinances.
Thanks, Amy. Dawn, I see your hand.
You're welcome.
Thank you again. I just wanted to say that I believe Amy Kelly would be an asset to the administration committee. I've already enjoyed working with her in the time that I was able to be on the admin committee thus far.
Wonderful. Thank you. Audie, I see a hand. Can you be brief?
Yes, same with me. I think both of them would be a great asset looking over their applications. It's just that the minor details that I was worried about were when we're not pushing anybody out or over.
Fine. So. Wonderful. Okay. With that, do I hear a motion?
I move. Oh,
go ahead, Dawn.
Thank you. I move that we appoint Amy Kelly and Jerry Reed to serve on the Oakridge Administrative Advisory Committee for a term of, I want to say that the resolution is now 3 years, but for the term that matches in the resolution.
3 years.
I second that.
Thank you. Way to think on your feet, Dawn. Any discussion? If no discussion, Jackie, will you call for a vote for us? Are you there, Jackie?
Can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Okay, I don't know what I did. Counselor Hollett?
Aye.
Counselor Coker?
Aye.
Counselor Kenyon?
Aye.
Counselor Bjornson?
Aye.
Counselor Whitney?
Aye.
Counselor Splitoff?
Aye.
Mayor Holston?
Aye. That passes resoundingly. Thank you very much, Jerry, and thank you, Amy. I appreciate your willingness to volunteer, and I know that you will be an asset to the committee. So thank you very much. Let's move on to 10.2. This is an application for the budget committee. Janet Christensen, are you online?
I am.
Hi, Janet.
Hi. You can call me Jan. That's just my legal name.
Oh, okay. Hi, Jan.
Hi.
Would you take a few minutes and just introduce yourself and tell us why you would like to serve on the budget committee?
Yeah, Jan Christensen. I lived here, I'm going to age myself, like 40 years ago, and loved it. But a divorce drove me out of town. It's kind of hard in a small town to have drama like that. So I left, but I'm happily back, and I see that Oakridge hasn't changed a lot, but I love it here, and I just want to help out whenever I can and wherever I can. So
thank you, Janet. I appreciate that. Michelle, I see you have a blue hand up.
I can't hear her.
I don't hear her yet either. Michelle, we can't hear you. Try it again.
She's muted.
Oh, she is. I do see her microphone crossed off.
Michelle, you'll need to unmute yourself.
I've been getting warnings that my internet connection is sketchy, so.
Oh, okay. Well, that very well could be.
But she is muted.
Okay.
And you saw her chat item, Kathy?
I did.
Could,
but I will get there. It will not unmute, she says, but I'm,
Oh. Well,
okay. All right. Well, if you feel like,
if you want to type a question,
yeah,
because I can
was
read
gonna
it.
say, if you'd like to type your question, Michelle, because you can't unmute yourself, please go right ahead. I'll give her a minute. Is there any other questions from counselors?
Yes.
Okay, Audie, go ahead.
What makes you, how do you feel that you have the best qualifications for this job?
Well, I've worked as an office manager for well over 30 years. And when I started with each one of the 2 companies that spread over that time period, they were in the red and not doing well. And I helped the first company grow by leaps and bounds. Found out that their current office manager was committing fraud. So that was reported into that. And then I became the office manager. And that's when the company really started growing. And then the second company I did as well. They were in the red and had previously fired whoever was in that position. And I came into a mess and had to do a lot of cleanup to get them organized, and found like $56,000 they didn't even know they had owed to them. And some of it was over 3 years old.
Right.
And I was able to collect that money for them. I have attention to detail, and I'm not afraid of looking at books. I might not understand everything. I did look at all the paperwork here, and it's a little different than what I'm used to. You know, a company is different than a city, but I'm willing to learn.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Michelle, were you able to find your voice before I move on?
She left a text message which says, all I wanted to say was I think Jan would be a great add to the budget committee.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
That's excellent. Let's see. I want to make sure I've got everybody here. She says, I'm trying, I keep losing connection. Okay, got it. All right, so can I have a motion, council?
I move that we appoint Miss Christensen to serve on the Oakridge Budget Committee.
Thank you, Councilor Kenyon. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'll record Councilor Whitney as a second.
Friendly amendment.
Yes, please.
I'd like to add for a term of 3 years. If that's what our committee is appointed for, I believe it is.
I'll second that.
Bobby, do you second that since she was?
Yes, I'll accept the amendment.
Thank you. That amendment is accepted. Is there any discussion before we move to a vote? If there's no discussion, Jackie, will you call for a vote, please?
Councillor Coker. Councillor Hollett.
Aye.
Councillor Splitoff.
Aye.
Councillor Kenyon.
Aye.
Mayor Holston.
Aye.
Councillor Whitney.
Aye.
Councillor Bjornson.
Aye.
Thank you. Be sure you record that Councillor Coker was unable to record a vote.
Okay.
And that passes. Thank you so much, Jan. I appreciate you doing this to serve on the budget committee, and I look forward to all of us being wide-eyed in anticipation and figuring out what we're doing. So see you then.
Thank you. I do too.
All right, council. Let's move on to, let's see, 10.3. And 10.3 is an application for the Oakridge Planning Commission, Mr. Jeffrey Reed. And Mr. Reed, are you on the live?
I believe so.
Hi,
Hi
wonderful.
there, how are you?
I'm just fine.
Are you getting video? This is my first Zoom meeting, so I just.
Well, I can see video, but I think what I see is your hand and a little bit of your face. Oh, now I see all your face. There you go. Excellent. please introduce yourself and tell us why you would like to serve on the Planning Commission.
My name is Jeffrey Reed. I'm well, other than a few short years in the military, and I'm a resident of Oakridge, and I've been there most all my life.
Okay.
I remember it when it was in its heyday and how it was, and I'd like to move forward to regaining some of that that era. Well, maybe not that era, but some of that prosperity that we had during that time. I'm really just wanting to help my community.
Great, great, thank you. And are you comfortable with what it is that the Planning Commission does?
Yeah, I've been over it, looked at it some, and I am comfortable with that position. Yes.
Okay, good. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Reed?
I do.
Okay, Audie, please go ahead.
I'd like to ask you how you would communicate with others. How do you get along and communicate with others?
I feel that I communicate with others well. I'm not a hothead. I like to have friendly recourse if I can, which usually I can.
Good.
I really like everybody to get along and be civil to each other.
Wonderful. Thank
Okay.
you. Michelle, I see your blue hand. Shall we try this again?
You hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, yes.
Go
I just
ahead.
wanted to say I had the pleasure of meeting Jeffrey today, and he is a very down-to-earth man, and I think he would do a very good job on that committee.
Thank you, Michelle. Is
Excellent.
there any other questions from council?
This is Bobby.
Dr. Whitney.
I've known Jeff for years because I grew up here as well. So I know, well, I guess I'll just ask the question. Some of your work background, I think it would apply to this. Can you discuss that a little bit?
Oh, certainly. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I'm currently and have been for, well, I'm a journeyman carpenter at this point. I've been in the construction industry for 20 plus years now. So I have a knowledge of how things should go, and as well as how they sometimes go with building projects. To that, I've also been in a supervisory position at the same level with construction as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. If there are no further questions, can we move to a vote? Jackie, please.
I don't think there's been a motion yet, Mayor.
There's
Oh,
not been a motion.
Sorry, I'm
I'd
skipping.
like to make a motion.
Go ahead, please, Audie, make the motion.
I move that we appoint Jeffrey Reed to serve in Oakridge as a planning commissioner for the term of 4 years.
I second.
It's been seconded, Mayor.
Did everybody freeze?
I think the mayor
No.
might be frozen.
Just the mayor.
Okay, I didn't hear anything there for a minute.
Yeah, the mayor froze.
Councilor Hollett, do you want to continue the proceeding?
Yeah, did we have both a motion and a second for,
Yes,
okay, Jeff? Can we call for the vote? Jackie, thank you.
yes. Counselor Slito,
Okay,
Counselor Coker,
Aye.
Counselor Bjornson,
Aye.
Counselor Hollett,
Aye.
Counselor Whitney,
Aye.
Mayor Holston, Counselor Kenyon,
Aye.
Jackie, I wanted to make sure that mine was a I. I said A, but it's I.
I got it, yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you, Jeffrey.
thank you for the opportunity. I hope and I'll strive to do well for you.
Thank
Thank-
you.
Thank you very much.
All right, Brian, I'm sorry, I can't see the whole agenda. What do we got next up?
Next is business from the city administrator. So with your
Okay.
permission, I'll go ahead with that. I'll ask the department heads to be brief, given our time constraints, and we've still got a couple, one or two resolutions to look at, depending. So I'll pass on the city administrator update unless you have direct questions, and move it on to Eric, if you're still online, to talk about he provided a couple graphs to me today that he can talk to. Eric, are you up?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So this first one is the most important one. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on any of these graphs, but with the new councilor members, I would just want them to see this issue, and I'm going to present it all the time, so it's not a mystery or a surprise. We have this thing called the restricted cash balance, which is the $800,000 mark. It's this orange line. We have to keep cash reserves in the bank account that are more than that $800,000 line. So what we have here is the budget versus actual. The budget is the light orange line. That's the budgeted restricted cash, what we think we need. Then the light gray, which is really a light blue line, is our budgeted revenue, our cash balance, sorry, that we think we're going to have. The darker lines are what's actually happening. So you can see the reason we're peaked out right now is just because we got all of the property tax revenue. So we're up there. So we need to keep this decline down over to the right-hand side as shallow as possible. If anyone has any questions about restricted fund balances, please just ask me. You can email me or whatever. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because obviously we got a lot of stuff going on. You want to go to the next, are there any questions?
I do have a quick question.
Sure.
Are you concerned about our restricted fund balance right now?
Well, I mean, the concern comes in like in April.
Okay.
Right. I mean, I'm just making sure to monitor what's going on in the accounting, making sure revenue and expenditures, keeping a really close eye on those, and making sure that that line has to stay above the orange. That's the other thing I didn't say. It's the law that the line has to stay above the orange. It's not a choice. So,
right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so this one is just tracking the expenditures, the money we're spending. The light red line is what we have budgeted the expenditures to be. The dark red line is what it actually is. You can see it's tracking really close, slightly below. The reason it goes down to 0 at January is because we haven't spent any money. Well, we haven't gone all the way through January, so I can't update those numbers. Any questions? Next one. Same graph, but with revenues. The good news on this one is the dark line, which is the actual, is slightly higher than the light line, which is what is budgeted. So that's good. Any questions? Okay, that's all I'll say.
Thanks, Eric. And Grace, are you online and give us a quick update on economic development?
Yes, I'll have two quick updates. One is just that the biomass utilization grant proposal project is moving ahead. We're working with the Devonshire group who is working on the proposal, and the final draft is going to be submitted by Wednesday, February 3rd. So that's a quick turnaround. and we're currently reviewing the first draft. And then my other update is that the city administrator sent out an overview of the last round of small business funding from Lane County to everyone on council. But a quick summary is that 19 businesses from Oakridge applied for that funding. And out of those 19, 4 were awarded funding for a total of $37,500. And that was 1% of the total funding for Lane County. So does anyone have any questions about either of those items?
My only question would be, is there a county website that helps show how all that funding was used and distributed?
I don't think they've published it on the website, but they did send out an email to leadership across the county, and that email was forwarded to the council from the city administrator. And you can contact either of us if you'd like to ask more questions about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grace. Now on to the police chief, or Michael. Do you have an update for the department?
Yeah, I have our December report. We had 515 incident reports that equaled 35 major case reports. We had a lot of use of force de-escalation type training in December that most of the staff went to at different times. It's kind of hard during COVID times because a lot of stuff we have to do online, so we don't get the hands-on stuff because we're still in that stage. And then Sergeant McPherson and I have lots of reports to do this time of year to both the state and to federal government on different stuff, so we have to report about. It seems like we get more of those each year as time goes on. And that's all I have.
Any questions for the chief? I heard on to the fire department. I think Eric had to sign off. We've it's been busy. We've had some, obviously transports that involve COVID, but we're taking the proper precautions and documenting all of it because eventually we're going to try to get reimbursement by FEMA now that the coronavirus fund has expired. The only avenue we have for reimbursement for COVID type expenses is going to be a FEMA grant that's out there, but it's much more arduous and much more stringent. So we're keeping the documentation and hopefully we'll get reimbursed for those runs that we do that are either confirmed or suspect COVID. We've also received the Zoll monitor, which we ordered with coronavirus funds to go into one of our ambulance units. And Scott is going to be tearing through that and then making sure that we get it set up right. And other than that, it's grant time for the fire department. So we're going to be working strenuously to get the grant together again for some gear for the fire department and perhaps some personnel when that opens up as well. But it's got a tight timeline and it's going to be a challenge. So any questions for the fire department?
I see Dawn has her hand up. Dawn, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, did we already receive either funds or approval for grant money before it ran out at the end of December for our transports that were COVID related?
Yeah, the way it worked is they gave us a certain amount of money. In this case, it was in the neighborhood of 112, somewhere around there. And we would file monthly for reimbursement. So as the year went along, we filed for all those types of whether it be overtime or labor on those runs.
Okay.
And that's also what paid for the Zoll monitor I just referred to. But we used every penny of that coronavirus fund that we were allotted, as they hoped that we would. And we'll see what happens. Perhaps the new bill that's for the federal government now for $1.9 trillion, they reported that would include local governments. So we'll wait and see what happens at the federal level.
Thank you.
Moving on, Public Works, let's see. They distributed for December 15,300,000 gallons of water, treated 30,611,000 gallons of wastewater, had 23 service orders, 0 water leaks, fixed a plug main on First in front of the elementary school. There were no damages, did 9 locates,
Also worked on drainage and catch basin maintenance, street sweeping, street maintenance, pothole repairs, park maintenance, tree removal and leaf removal, equipment maintenance, meter service and sewer stub for a new build, new probe for chlorine monitoring equipment, read water meters, cleaned problematic sewers, eliminated electrical service for Scale House and ran a new circuit from the OIP office building, and installed defibrillators at City Hall and council chambers, which were a gift to the city. So those are in place in those two locations. And that is it. Well, actually for community services, Robert did a walkthrough of the facility, and we're going to accept that. It'll remain locked for the winter because it's not a winterized out unit, so it'll remain locked and we'll open it up in the spring. And then now we're going to move on. I still haven't gotten the final bill from TSE, the engineer and firm that did it. As soon as I get that, with Rick Zilstra's help as a contractor, we will figure out the situation with the pavilion, with the money fund, once we figure out the funds remaining. Any questions at all before we move on? Councilor
So
Kenyon?
Brian, yeah, I see her. Brian, is the bathrooms done?
Yes, ma'am. The bathroom is done. We've accepted it from TSE, and
Oh, okay.
that's what's going to be locked up for the winter until the.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, I'm sorry.
And-
I'm
and
sorry.
public
Counselor
works-
Whitney, I see your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering who donated the defibrillators.
I'm sorry.
Who donated the defibrillators?
Sarah Custer, and I'm gapping her son's name, but those are the two that
It was her son.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's everything from the city administrator. Mayor, if you want to.
Okay. Thank you. So I think we're moving down to 14.1 audit corrective actions. And I do want to point out that it's 8:57. Brian, these financial things, the supplemental budget and the audit corrective actions, council, we have to pass, we don't have to pass, but we have to address the audit corrections actions, don't we? Because it has to be done by the end of the month. Is that correct?
Yeah, the corrective action is due to the state by the end of the month.
Right.
The other
And,
stuff is not.
but the supplemental budget is it? So council, are you okay with moving forward with 14.1 and giving us another 15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so is there anybody that absolutely cannot move forward? Okay, then let's move forward with 14.1, the audit corrective actions. Brian, will you introduce this action item, please?
Yes, ma'am. It's a resolution adopting a plan of action to correct internal control deficiencies cited in the fiscal year 2020 financial statement audit. It's 14.1. Exhibits were the resolution and the plan of action. We're looking for a motion to approve the proposed resolution and plan of action. Eric generated this, and I'm the administrator, obviously. The city has received our 2020 audit, and it's in each of your boxes from SGA and consultants, which identified 2 weaknesses in internal controls. The Secretary of State requires a POA be filed by January 31st to address how the city will correct these identified weaknesses. The POA must be adopted by motion or resolution. No fiscal impacts. Your options are to approve it, the resolution, the plan of action, or to not approve the resolution, the plan of action. Staff is recommending approval of the resolution and plan of action, and the motion's there.
Thank you, Brian. I have some questions. I'm going to go ahead and start. Bobby, I see your hand up too. So I'm going through the plan of action. I'm looking at the corrective action plan for the billing process detail and internal control guidance. And second paragraph where it talks about sending all medical transport calls for billing. In here, you mentioned that it is the fire department's experience that some payers will not pay for services rendered at a citizen's home when no transport is carried out. And when these happen, you don't bill because we're charged then from the third party, and we know they're not going to pay. So my question is, how many of these do we receive? And is there an alternative billing process? And then also along with that is do we do repeat calls to these individuals who we know aren't going to pay? And I don't know enough about this, so I don't want to sound harsh, but there it is.
Well, I guess I don't want to give you bad information, so I'll probably ask to give you the information on your first question at a later time.
Okay.
We don't ever not go to a call because it's a 911 call and it's given by dispatch. So we'll not do that. We do have calls that result in non-transports that we can charge for. So we are starting to do that. There is a little judgment there, because you don't want to, someone's first call in 10 years, you don't want to charge them if it was a legitimate call. So
Right.
there is a little bit of leeway that the firefighter paramedics have in that charging.
Okay. And then as far as the timeline for this deficiency is by March 1st, there will be a procedure in place so that we will be able to justify balance the paperwork coming in with the billings.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to get that done. And I'm wondering if we can also, at the first meeting after that deadline of March 1st, could we have a report brought in saying this is what we've done and that it's working?
Yeah, so Eric's been working very hard on this, and he'll have a written internal control, essentially, that describes what the city does in order to sort of reconcile their ambulance billing and working with the billing service that we use. So yes, he'll have something in writing for the council to look at and also be available to talk to it.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Whitney, I see a blue hand up, and Dawn, I see that you have one up next too.
I just want to say that I have a potential claim of risk with anything to do with our budget and our supplemental budget. And I'm going to throw the audit in there just to cover all my bases. My brother, Rick Zelstra, does some contracted work with the city. Last time I spoke with him, he said that he hasn't billed the city for that. So there's been no money involved. But I just want to make that statement that I do have a potential conflict of interest.
Thank you, Bobby. Councilor Kenyon, go ahead. I can't.
Muted.
Councilor Kenyon, we don't hear you.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me
go.
now?
I hear you.
I wanted to ask if the council has received a copy of the audit. I don't know that I have, but I also have been out away from that for a few days.
They're all sitting in your boxes, and some have been picked up and some have not. They've been there about a week and a half.
Oh, I assumed it was going to be coming by email.
Yeah, so just a reminder to all councilors, you need to check your boxes on a weekly basis because information can go in there. And if you can't get to it for some reason, I am always available to go take a peek when I'm in there and bring something to any counselor if you can't get out for some reason. So do let me know.
Okay.
Okay, I see Eric, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to let all the counselors know that on the Secretary of State website, you can go and pull every city's financial statements right off of there. Ours is not on there yet, but it would be shortly. So just for information. And then also you can find everyone's adopted budget. Well, not everyone's, but most cities put their adopted budgets on their city websites as well. Just FYI.
Oh, thanks, Eric.
Right. We have it on ours.
Yeah. Any other questions? I see Bobby's hand and Dawn's hand are still up. So I'm assuming you've asked your question. Yeah. Okay. All right. So council, can we have a motion, please?
I actually have just one quick
Oh,
thing.
certainly. Go ahead.
So the audit, this thing about the ambulance billing, I remember this was actually discussed in last year's audit, and I thought that we had a corrective action done for it last year. So I'm kind of curious on what did or did not happen last year, and then what exactly, maybe a little bit more detail, what the plan is this year so that it happens in place.
Good question. Go
So
ahead.
Bill Jones did start to work on an audit plan. And I'll be honest, I think it probably got put at a back burner during the finance director turnover. But I think Eric is ready to talk to the actual plan of action about kind of the details of what he sees as the solution.
Yeah, I can say something for just a minute if that's cool.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so there was a plan in place last year. Bill was not an auditor, but I was, so I could see that the plan didn't have a lot of detail in it that it needed to have. So I went and interviewed Scott to see what the billing process was for the fire department and the ambulance, understood what the process was. Most of the controls are in place already. I would say like 95% of them. It's just a little bit of documentation and archiving of decisions that were not being done at the fire department yet. Then the other big portion is the part that the finance director needs to do, which is making sure that the billings that are coming from our third-party biller are matching the revenues coming in. That was not happening. And I have, after interviewing Scott, and I've been in contact with the third-party billers, I'm getting all the information I need so I can start doing the process already. Scott's ready to start doing the process. So we just need to do it. And it's not a lot of work. So I'm not concerned at all. I think I don't want to say slam dunk, but it's going to be pretty easy.
And that deadline of March 1st is easily attainable, correct?
Yeah, because I already have all the internal controls designed. I know what we're going to do. Scott's on board. So now it's just a matter of doing it.
Okay, thank you.
And the plan of action's already written and already ready to go to the Secretary of State.
Okay, thank you. Christy, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. All right, if there are no other questions, can we have a motion, please?
I move that we adopt Resolution 01-2021 and the plan of action.
Thank you. Do we hear a second?
I'll
second.
Okay, Councilor Splitoff, we'll take your second.
Okay.
If there's no further discussion, Jackie, we call for a vote.
Councillor Whitney,
Aye.
Mayor Holston,
Aye.
Councillor Bjornson,
Aye.
Councillor Hollett,
Aye.
Councillor Splitoff,
Aye.
Councillor Coker,
Aye.
Councillor Kenyon.
Aye.
Thank you, Council. That passes. It is 9:08. City Administrator, will you please make note that we're going to move the supplemental budget approval to our next council meeting? That would be the first meeting in February. And if there are no further council comments, I will take public comment if there is any. I'm assuming there's still no one at the WAC.
Lonely in the WAC.
So lonely in the WAC. And if there are any, oh, I see Trudy, you have your hand up. I see it. Go ahead, Trudy, please state your name and go ahead and give your comment.
Trudy Hammond, 47752 Berry Street, Oakridge. My first question is, were you ever able to reach out to Cedric Hayden regarding the call boxes on 58 for the dead zones? And that was back when my daughter died.
Right.
And my other thing is I want to clarify, the personal conflict between two committee members is not the issue. It's the issue of the violation of the code of conduct. And maybe council can find a way of addressing how violations of code of conduct are addressed, because I don't think we have anything for that per se. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Trudy.
No.
We're bringing that up.
Not council.
And I will talk to you offline about Cedric Hayden. So I'll give you a call tomorrow. Counselor Kenyon, is that a blue hand I see?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask if we could add to a future agenda to talk about and review our complaint process. It's come up a few times tonight, and I'm not sure I'm real familiar with it. If we could maybe get a copy of what the process is, and then also talk about it at a future meeting.
The complaint process is online on the city's website if you want to take a look at it, and we will definitely add it to the add it to a future meeting if we want to just go over it and explain how people use it. I don't want to belabor the point. It seems to come up on a regular basis, and it works if people use it. It just doesn't work when they don't, and kind of go around it and circumvent it. But great, thank you.
I'll review it.
All right, thank you. No further comments, then it is at 9:11, and we are adjourning this meeting for the Oakridge City Council. Thank you, everyone.
There is,
for being here.
Kathy.
Yes.
There is one thing. I was asked today, there was a citizen that called me and was wanting to know what all the cones and people were doing out by the gas station and the Dairy Queen.
I have no idea, Audie. If you have a question, contact the city administrator.
Blocking some lanes off.
Contact the city administrator and get an answer for that. This meeting is adjourned, however.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Night.